Hey everybody out there, this is Konoshi Abominito here with another Project Console. Might be a little lighter than usual. I didn't prepare last night, so I kind of rushed some topics today. Um, haven't been haven't been sleeping the greatest, but whatever. We'll get through. We'll get through this together. So this is episode 61. Pink Slip. Before we get into our topics, like my panelist to introduce himself.
Yeah, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters, and I'm just glad to be on another cast. It's always good to be on a cast where you don't have to run it and you can just be a guest. It's lovely. 2 thumbs up.
Hey, glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, what before we get into the main part of the show, what have you been playing? What have you been watching? Uh,
What have I been playing? Well, let's see. Let me look at my Steam. I got Persona 3 portable on Steam. And it just makes me realize how much I would have preferred them instead of doing Persona 3, the PSP version. I wish they would have just remade Persona 3 Fez, which was what Persona 3 Portable is based on, and just give you the option of playing as the male or female protagonist, because the PSP version of these characters look like ass.
yeah,
They don't look good. Like in Persona 3, because of the style of the Persona games, actually looks pretty good. And I still have that game, so I'm like, this looks like shit. Um, like here's what I'm gonna say: not every portable games need to be ported over, unless you're gonna do a um, you know,
a full-on remake.
well, if you're,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying you have to do a full on remake, but at least upgrade the models, because most people who are playing games on PC are playing at a higher resolution with better screens than the PSP had.
yeah,
And something that looks really good on a little tiny ass screen is not going to look really good on a big, robust. Like I have a 2K monitor, so shit's not gonna look good. It's not going to look good on a 2K monitor. I'll be right back. I got to go get my tea. But the other game I've been playing is High on Life. Been playing
yeah,
High on Life and replaying the Ascent in New Game Plus mode, with the extra DLC, with the DLC expansion they added, and like playing it with like my uber powerful super character, just mowing motherfuckers down.
yeah,
Cool stuff. When you just don't care anymore, you're like, they all have to die. What did
yeah.
I do? It doesn't matter. You gotta die. Um, yeah. Here's what I'll say. I wish that the people who made Cyberpunk had waited and played the Ascent, and then they would understand what a Cyberpunk game is supposed to look and feel like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I played the Ascent and that game. The game was it's interesting. Kind of made me disappointed in how Cyberpunk turned out because yeah, you're right. Had they played that game first, they probably would have gotten slightly better results from Cyberpunk. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it was like they had it's like they had no idea what to do with the IP. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, you have gotten one of the great Cyberpunk is one of the great tabletop RPGs, except it's science fiction. It's not D&D, it's science fiction. So, and it's about technology and how humanity's strange relationship with technology can both be a benefit and a disadvantage. And basically, CD Projekt Red, which should have been Cyberpunk 2077 should have been an amazing game. And while they had all, like, basically Cyberpunk 2077 is like going to someone's house and they say, I'm going to make a stew. It's like, what ingredients you're going to put in the stew? And they list all these great ingredients, and they still somehow make one of the most convoluted, messed up dishes ever.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to the game because, like Cyberpunk 2077 should have been a single player sandbox simulator where there was an overall story that you could follow, but then you could just basically say, look, I'm going to go do all these missions in order to raise up my stats so that I can take on the harder story-based missions. That should have been the game. Instead of, we want to tell this intricate story about, because we spent money up to get Keanu Reeves, so we're going to put him in your head. I'm like, no. Also, as someone who is familiar with the IP, like they're like, we don't know why cyberpsychosis is happening because people in cyberpunk there's a mechanic called humanity, and the more cybernetic implants you get, the more your humanity goes down to the point where like it's like a thing where you have your humanity starts at like a 10, a 7, a 8, or a 9. And basically, every cybernetic implant you get lowers that. And once you hit 0, you're no longer human. You suffer some cybernetic psychosis.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah,
you're
that does
basically
sound
a machine.
interesting. Yeah.
You go around killing people. You're basically the Terminator.
Yeah.
You know, you're like Arnold, and I don't mean the Terminator 2 Terminator. I mean like the Terminator 1 Terminator is like, like he gets shot in the face. And the guy knocks on the door. Hey, everything in the game. He's like, yeah, go fuck you, asshole. And the guy walks away. Like that type of stuff. Like you're. So I mean, it's clear to me that CD Projekt Red bought that IP and then said we can. They were going to treat it exactly like they treated The Witcher, which is we're going to do whatever the hell we want and make our game loosely based upon the source material. And that's where they fucked up. That's where they fucked up. They really did not immerse themselves in what the cyberpunk ethos really is. Or maybe too much, because cyberpunk, like Shadowrun, is based upon corporations, capitalism run amok. And goddamn it, did a huge corporation let capitalism run amok with Cyberpunk 2077? So maybe they were too true to the IP. Maybe that was the problem.
And those glitches, man. Those glitches are hilarious. Those are. That was the most amusing thing that come out of Cyberpunk 2077.
That's the hilarious thing about that game is that, for me, is that when I was playing it, I didn't really get a lot of glitches. So, because my PC wasn't a piece of shit trying to play that game. But also, that game, just for me, the problem with that game is that the city was gorgeous, but it felt like they didn't make a city that felt lived in. That city felt modeled. That city felt like a decoy city.
Yeah.
It's really hard to feel immersed in a huge. They're like, we spent all these hours working on the city. Yeah, that's cool, but why is it that I go around the block and turn the corner and I see the same dude I just passed wearing the same outfit, and he didn't walk past me. I walked past him, and you basically have the same dude around the corner. Like, it's like.
Because they were better with that in The Witcher, like The Witcher 3 specifically, or the villages and stuff felt alive, and things were happening there. But I guess
where they fucked up. They used a new engine.
Yeah,
they used a new engine. They should have used the last engine that they used in The Witcher, or at least something like that. And they used a brand new engine, and they didn't have a handle on the new engine. It's like everyone's like, we need to use Unreal Engine. What are they up to 5 now?
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 5. But there's stuff that you can do in Unreal Engine 4 that's better than Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, I'm sure, since Unreal Engine
UE5 just gives you better graphics. Like you can utilize more graphical tricks, but I mean in terms of physics, Unreal Engine 4 has better physics for certain games. And I've noticed this because I played UE4 games that have engine gameplay that's very physics heavy, and the physics are much better than UE5. So,
yeah.
But that's a
But
bias thing. That's not, I can't be like, well, it's this way and that it's that way.
so I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 lately, and
Mhm.
that game's pretty good.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
really like the premise of that game. Because
yeah, yeah,
at the beginning you're not really quite sure where it's going, but the idea of essentially I don't know if I want to spoil the premise for you because it is or for anybody who end up listening to this stream, but I guess it's going to be kind of hard to talk about. But it is a pretty interesting premise.
Functionally speaking, if I'll use a contrast and comparison, if Persona 4 was about people, the masks that people wear, and them not being true to themselves, and that caused a issue. A lot of what caused the issue to a lot of the characters in Persona 4 were people not owning up to the darker parts of themselves.
Yeah,
Like the catalyst for bad things happening to a lot of the characters was them saying, "That's not me. That's not who I am." You have to accept all the parts of yourself. You can't just accept what you like. You have to accept what you don't like as well, and then work on changing it. This game, Persona 5, you have something similar to that, where people have a darker part of themselves that they want to hide away, their true face, what they truly want, what they truly are. And sometimes it's something that's shameful or
yeah,
terrifying or greedy or lustful.
yeah,
And essentially speaking, I mean, in Persona 4, you were basically trying to, it was a small town murder mystery with a group of kids
yeah.
and a weird teddy bear guy who I still don't know what the fuck Teddy is, but I'm like, I've read Wikipedias about what he actually is. I'm like, I still don't know what the fuck Teddy was, but in this game, like the past game, there's not really murders going on. Thus far, I've only done like two of the pleasure of the mind palaces in that game. But you're thieves going in and stealing people's deepest, darkest desires and what they've been hiding away. A lot of times, these are people doing some fucked up shit, and
Yeah, yeah,
they did some fucked up shit, and they're hiding it away. Like, this isn't a case in the game, like a thing, but like this game could potentially have a guy who like swapped out a baby and raised the child as its own, but he's not the parent and it's someone else's kid, and you're and they know they did something terrible, so that they're locking it away. You gotta figure that out. Overall, I mean, I like Persona 4. I mean, Persona 5. I don't like it quite as much as P4. I think P4 is a little bit of a tighter, narrowly focused
yeah.
game.
I feel like this game because it's starting because I finished the first arc or
Mm-hmm.
finished the first palace, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's like hey, maybe you guys are trying to do a little too much, but
Yeah,
you
I
know
mean,
that's kind of why
I
I like the other one a little better because it was tighter and you didn't have as many characters to keep track of.
yeah, that's the problem. The problem with this game is that they give you so many options to raise your stats and so many little like asides to do stuff that unless you're OCD, you'll never do all of it. Whereas in Persona 4, you can optimize your gameplay path in order to max out your stats pretty early on in the game and still max out your relationships and get all the little spinnies with maxing out your personal links with the other characters and get the little bennies that go with their characters. It was like, oh, this is nice. This game's like, okay, which personality links am I gonna have to focus on? Really, you can't really enjoy Persona 5 until you do New Game Plus. Really, that's when you really kind of okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I just I mean, but it's 160 plus JRPG,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so like here's the thing: we always complain about how what happened to the old 100+ hour JRPGs, and we get when we're complaining it's too much shit to do. So it's like I'm
Man,
gonna
it's
appreciate having. Because we don't get 100+ hour JRPGs these days that don't have a lot of filler and bullshit to pad it out. Persona 5 and Persona 4, because Persona 4 was like an 80-hour JRPG if you did everything. Those games don't really have filler in the classic sense of the term. There's like, here's an aside event that you can do, but you're going to get something out of it that's going to benefit your character or something,
Yeah, because
which I give Benny's
yeah,
to.
yeah, even the social stuff, like it helps you out. It when you do that stuff, it helps your stats in the dungeons and stuff like that. Uh, Especially, also helps you. With the relationship stuff, it helps you build your skills within battles and helps your personas. And it's like, so it's not like this stuff is pointless. Like you, I'm using a trainer, and it took me about 12 hours to get through, that first arc with
Kamishita.
Kamishita, the
Yeah,
teacher.
Kamishita. Yeah, that
Without a
pervert.
train,
But you
yeah.
could tell, it's like, yeah, this dude is. I mean, the fact he's trying to fuck his student, it's like, you ain't shit, dude. You need your ass. Like you don't. I mean, you need your ass whooped. Like you.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, abusing your students is bad enough, but you're also trying to like you're blackmailing a girl to sleep with her, and I'm like, you ain't shit, bro. I mean, just
yeah,
you're a piece of shit. I mean, that's the thing. Like the most of the Mind Palace peoples, um, you're like, oh, this person's a piece of shit.
yeah. So
Like you are a real piece of shit. Like I've never, um,
but yeah, but the without the trainer, it probably would have taken me about 15 to 20 hours to finish that first arc, and I mean, that's just the first palace. So it's gonna be interesting to see where things go from there.
yeah, yeah.
So we'll jump right into these topics, unless there's
Okay.
anything else you'd like to say about that.
If you guys who watch this, if you don't have a chance, get Persona 5 Royal on Steam. It's amazing. If you have a Switch, get it on Switch. Although, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. Persona is one of those games that's better to enjoy playing with a trainer, and you can't really use a trainer on the Switch. So, PC, if you
yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah. But in any case, massive layoffs in various tech companies. So for the past couple of years, Meta laid off a bunch of people. Twitter, of
Yeah.
course, laid off a bunch of people. Facebook, I think they laid off a bunch of people. And then you had Google laid off 12,000, a little over 12,000 people. And then you have
Microsoft.
Microsoft. That's the big
Yeah.
one. Mainly because it's pertaining to gaming. They
They laid
laid
off
off
a
a
whole
bunch
bunch
of
of
people.
people. The big notice is being given to gaming, but they laid off a whole bunch of other people too, not in gaming.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot of tech people. It's a lot of tech. Here's what I'm gonna say about it. Just I'm gonna dive in there before you get in there because I gotta go get my tea from out of my mini fridge. Um, a lot of people are going to say this is because of the economy, and I think that's a part of it, but I don't think it's the economy and what people think. In terms of Facebook and Twitter, Facebook was like that because Mark Zuckerberg poured a lot of money into something that people didn't want and no one was asking for, which was the metaverse.
Yeah.
No one cares about the metaverse at this point in time. Okay. They have
Yeah.
not made a convincing argument as to why people should give a flying you know what about the metaverse anything. Twitter had people getting fired because Elon Musk, despite the cult of personality that surrounds Elon Musk, not too good of a business person. First of all, he overpaid for Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, he paid $44 billion for a company that's maybe worth 20.
Yeah, they don't make a. Twitter doesn't make hardly, if any,
No,
money.
no. To be honest with you, like, and despite that being said, I don't think Twitter isn't, especially before Elon Musk bought it. Twitter is still an important thing because Twitter is kind of like at this point, Twitter is a form of infrastructure. Well, was a point of infrastructure because there were people who lived in countries where their voice was silenced. They couldn't talk about things. If there's a revolution going on, someone could use Twitter to let someone know in a country, yeah, this is what's going on. That was a vital way for people to communicate that wasn't controlled by a country or some asshole
Yeah.
until Elon Musk bought it. Now it's controlled by an asshole. So, I mean, like that's kind of an issue. But I mean, Elon Musk is you know, here's one good thing about 2022. 2022 showed that just because someone has a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that they know what the hell they're doing with it.
Yeah,
Okay?
and just because somebody has a lot of money doesn't even necessarily mean they're smart either, as I've noticed
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
past few
saying.
years. Yeah.
It's I mean, like I said, Elon Musk paid what, $44 billion for a company that's only worth maybe 20, maybe I'll be liberal and say 25. Okay? On top of that, he fired almost all the fucking engineers, so Twitter is breaking down constantly because you have something where you have a platform where you constantly need software engineers combing through the shit, where there are legal constraints on Twitter where with the government where before they can make any change to their code it has to be submitted to the FTC. Got rid of those people. So, I mean, this is just someone who doesn't know how to run a tech company. And I know people to say, well, Tesla is a car manufacturing company. Two completely different things. It's more about manufacturing and supply chains. It's not the same as tech. Okay. So yeah, we're seeing, I mean, this is the same guy who went to a Chappelle show thing, a Chappelle stand up, and Dave Chappelle, who's fucking out of touch at this point too, introduced him and he got booed and then he tried to lie about it. I wasn't booed. Man, we got photographed evidence of you. We have videotape evidence of you being booed by the crowd. Wait, like 2022, like I said, should be called the year of people who you're finding out in 2022 last year how full of shit some people are. The other tech companies, Microsoft is laying people off because they're tired of they're marshaling their forces so they can buy Activision Blizzard. That's what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
marshaling their money so they can buy Activision Blizzard. Because why would they probably think that they can get Activision Blizzard, and if they can get Activision Blizzard they won't need all these other tech people because they're going to get more tech people who have been making games for years. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Google, I mean, Google's just being Google. Every 5 to 8 years, Google starts like just firing people. It's a cycle thing. They do that. They lay off like three. They lay off between 2 to 5% of their workforce every 5, 8 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, these tech companies are trying to essentially because like if the market is saturated with services, so they can't create a new service because they're going to spend more money getting it off the ground than making off of it. But you know what does make the books look really good? If you can fire a whole bunch of people and make it look like you didn't lose as much money or you made a little bit of money, which is what they're
Yeah.
doing. It's typical corporate bullshit. This is what it is.
Yeah, and obviously, they're trying to dress it up like it is the economy and whatnot. And apparently, during the pandemic, stuff that I was reading about Google is they did hire a bunch of people. Some of these companies did hire a bunch of people. Some of these jobs uh, were jobs that were
Temporary.
no longer necessary. Like for example, Stadia. and just some other
Yeah,
positions that
they
were
shouldn't have never
that were
made. They should have
filler.
never made Stadia.
Yeah,
That's on them. Look, Google needs to take that out. No one was asking for. Well, no, actually, I take that back because you have Xbox Game Pass, which is essentially just like Stadia but better.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, I know what Google was trying to do because, believe it or not, and again, I don't think local local gaming is really going to go anywhere anytime soon. But it is streaming games is going to become more ubiquitous. It's gonna become more of a thing. It is, quote unquote, the future. I
mhm.
know it hurts a lot of feelings when you say that, uh, um, but they just did it poorly. They rolled this service out poorly. It was just is the way they handled it was just terribly done. It's like,
Exactly. Only Google could take a good product, a good idea, and a good product, and just every single way that you could, everything you could do in order to make it not a successful, Google did.
yep, yep,
Like from introducing it, like when they introduced Stadia, they showed a line of consoles to like get people hyped for it, and every single console they showed was a failed console. It was like the Jaguar, the 30. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you? Why would you do that? That's like it's like y'all don't want to succeed at all, do you?
yeah,
Then they had a pricing model that was like the technology wasn't ready yet. They didn't do like I think the Stadia test was with the public was like because I was part of it was like a week, 2 weeks, and one game. And it worked for me, but I mean, I'm just like y'all just. Google Stadia should be taught in business, and like in business courses on how not to launch a product.
yeah,
They should be like, yeah, this is how you don't do it. They got a man who has failed more than he's succeeded, Phil Harrison.
yeah. Yeah, that's
I'm
another.
like,
When I saw Phil Harrison there, I was like, okay, yeah, this
oh,
is
that's the
on.
kiss of death, right? The only thing that would
Yeah,
have been
it's
worse is if
gone.
they had what's his name, the
Don
guy who was
Matrick.
like, "We have a product for you if you don't want to always be online. It's called the Xbox 360."
Yeah, Don Matrick.
Don Matrick. Yeah, they had Don Matrick. That would have been worse. It's like I'm like Don Matrick. Why do they keep hiring this guy? It's like I mean Phil Harrison is like a lesser Don Matrick. Because Don Matrick does have some things where he succeeded at. Phil Harrison, I think out of like the 5 companies he's been the head of, only one's done well, and that was in spite of him, not because of him. That was the Xbox 360.
Yeah,
That's because Microsoft had a ton of money to pump behind it, but every other thing he's touched has not done well. Gaikai, he ruined that. It was sold to Sony and went under. It was folded into their PS Now.
yeah.
I
He
mean,
did.
just
He also spearheaded the. He was part of the PS3.
when it was
Uh,
failing.
yeah,
I mean, it's it.
he's
I
also
mean,
part of. He also, helped with the Xbox One. Again,
when
another.
it was failing.
Another dumpster fire. Yeah, this guy doesn't
I
have
mean,
a very good track record.
yeah, Phil Harrison is just. I mean, like, let me put it this way: there's some CEOs where you're like, yeah, this guy can turn it around, and there's some CEOs who's like, I don't feel comfortable investing in this now that you told me it was right. And the fact that Google got this guy, like Google did everything. Like, first of all, like I said, they should have had a lower investment in the technology and actually put money, like have a 5-year plan. We're not going to put this out for 5 years. During those 5 years, we're going to get indie studios to make games for it. So when it launches, we're going to have a broad library of games. It's going to be a service. If people will pay $15 a month or $20 a month for PS Now and Xbox Game Pass, they could have said, look, we'll charge people $20 a month. They can upload their own games to a digital server. They can play them on there. We also have games that they can play if they're a member, or, they can actually just like buy or whatever. That would have been better, but they just, oh, Jesus. Oh, every way
Yeah.
you could not run this properly, they did. Like every single, like you ever seen those old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like Tom and Jerry, stuff like that, where like there's a yard full of rakes and Tom is stepping on every single rake. That is what
Yeah.
Google did. It's like, well, maybe if I go, okay, maybe if I go, every single rake they stepped on and it hit them in the face.
Yeah, and it's the same. It, yeah, I just the business model was obviously, it's just terrible through and through. You had to pay for the service, so you had to pay to get on the portal, and you had to not only pay for the portal, but you also had to pay full price for the game. So, you, it's like getting into an expensive club, and you gotta pay to get into the club, and then you gotta pay, exorbitant prices for drinks that, you know, you could have made, you could have had at home. But in any
Yeah,
case,
but Kenoshi, you have to remember something. I don't know how many clubs you've been to. The reason men go to clubs is because
yeah, I know why
men
people
have
go
to
to
be paid to
clubs.
go in the clubs. Hot women get in free, and men buy drinks
For
for the
the
women
yeah, I
because they're
know
like,
why
"Look,
you
I bought this $8 drink." And on the off chance that one of the hot women will get drunk enough to say, "Yeah, he's kind of cute. I'll go home with him," and they'll get some action, okay?
I
Uh,
yeah. I
but
mean, you
the
get more out
dude,
of. I guess in actuality, you'd get more out of a club than you would get out
yeah.
of Stadia. But
Except Google is the guy who went to the club because he looked like Phil Harrison, and he paid for all those drinks and got nothing. Everything dry. Everything gonna be dry when they go home. There ain't nothing going on. Not only that, but they got drunk and have a hangover the next day. He trying to buy $8. $8. It's like, did you honestly think that woman was gonna give it up for an $8 drink? Man, sit your ass down.
but
Anyway, yeah. Phil
20
Harrison.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. But
Google was terrible.
2020 was their year. That was the year that they should have really got their shit together,
Yep.
uh, and really presented Stadia because everybody was stuck at home. The graphics card market was went to shit because people
20,
were
2020 and 2021, because
yeah
2020 was COVID, 2021 was the graphics cards.
yeah
So they had 2 years to make Stadia into an attractive platform. And what did Stadia do? Not a damn thing.
nope
it
mm, yeah
was it was some of the sorriest shit I ever seen before. Like I said, the Stadia debacle should be taught in business courses about how not to launch a product.
yeah
From the optics to what they actually produced to how they supported it, to how Phil Harris led it, where he was lying to the employees. Oh, everything's good, and then like the next day, oh, you're fired. We're shutting this down. I'm like, why would you lie to your employees like that? Like, Phil Harris is a piece of shit. I mean, he is a total and complete piece of shit. And if I worked,
I can't wait for that inevitable book or video that's like a tall
documentary,
yeah documentary about essentially the complete debacle that was Stadia. Uh, Probably won't see it for a while because I'm sure a lot of people had to sign NDAs not to say anything. But god dang, that that was one heck of a fall. Stadia only lasted for a couple of for
2.5 years.
two and a half years before they're like, well, time to shut down, close down shop. It's like
Shut it down.
they spent billions on that technology, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's sad state of affairs. But I mean, there are other. The only company that's doing it the best, in my opinion, uh, is Microsoft, just because you do have the option not only for cloud play if you buy the Ultimate, but to play your games locally as well through
Yeah.
their service, and you don't have to pay for you know for the games once once you pay for the service, because it's treated as a rental service. So obviously you'll have your rotation of games. They'll take some games out, put some new games in. But yeah,
Mhm.
so out of all of them, that's probably the best deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say this because I don't really like Microsoft all that much, but they essentially have the best online streaming gaming service right now.
Yeah,
Bang for your buck, Microsoft is the best.
yeah,
Um, Followed by there's probably some smaller online gaming services. I mean, on PC gaming streaming services that are probably smaller libraries but fairly decent too. Way down beyond behind that is PS Now, whatever
yeah,
Sony's version of PS Now is, because I know they changed the name and some other shit. And at the bottom on consoles for me is the Nintendo
Nintendo.
library. Oh
Yeah,
boy, what shit that is! I'm like, y'all just, oh god damn.
yeah. Anytime you talk about Nintendo's online, there's hurt feelings, but it definitely could be better. That's for sure. It definitely
Yeah,
could be better.
don't say that out loud. Some people might, the Nintendo mafia might come and get you.
Yeah,
Talking about, don't be talking about a multi-billion-dollar company
yeah.
that has the
That.
highest selling, that has the highest selling, the most dominant hardware for the last 5 years.
Yeah, that may. Yeah, I
How
have.
dare you? They need defending.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta protect this multi-billion-dollar company with my water gun pistol and my water balloon, and only $5,000 I make a year, cause
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
Yeah,
You have to defend them. You have to defend. They have to be defended. And
yeah,
look, listen. I'm being facetious. I have to qualify this. I am a huge Nintendo fan. I have all of their consoles, all of them, even the Japanese ones. Don't don't confuse my critique of the Switch for me not liking Nintendo as a company. But if you are a Nintendo gamer, like a core Nintendo gamer, not hardcore, because you don't really have hardcore Nintendo gamers. If you're a core Nintendo gamer and you think that Nintendo's online is just fine the way it is right now, you'll accept anything.
yeah,
You will accept anything. You're the same person who probably thinks Sword and Shield, I mean, Violet and Crimson are great. Just when they came out and they were buggy, glitchy pieces of shit. Oh, this is fine. Yeah, this is
yeah,
totally acceptable.
yeah, yeah. And that's the problem with console fans in general. I honestly think, like, when it comes to that, like, just accepting anything. I think Sony and Nintendo fans are the worst. Microsoft fans can be pretty bad, but they don't. At least this last couple of generations, they don't seem to be as vocal uh, about that sort of thing. But then again, I don't really follow video game drama or
I
console drama
think
anymore. So
I think fandoms in general, people who take it to the point where they can't, if you can't accept and recognize criticism, even if you disagree, if you can't understand why people who make that criticism can't feel the way they do, and you just automatically have to defend it, then you're because fandom, the root for fan is fanatic. No one should be a fanatic.
yeah, that's why I don't like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I don't like calling myself a fan.
say you're an enthusiast. I am a video game enthusiast. I prefer to game on Nintendo consoles because I like the first party and second party, the first party experiences, the second party and third party exclusives. And I can say this with absolute certainty: no one has better second and third party exclusives to me than Nintendo. Some of my favorite games have been third party exclusives for Nintendo consoles. Love uh, third party exclusives or like special versions made specifically for Nintendo's hardware, like RE2. My favorite version of that game is on the N64.
Resident,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
my
I've heard
favorite
good
version
things
of
about.
Gauntlet Legends,
Yeah,
N64.
yeah. I mean, RE2 showed people it's like, yeah, they could
Yeah,
completely port our games to the N64.
they
You
didn't,
know,
but it wasn't from it was impossible. It was just a lack of will to do it. Okay.
yeah,
Um, like I love that on the GameCube you had games like technically a second party game using a first party IP because Sega made it. F-Zero GX. That game is amazing on the GameCube. You had Extreme G. It was also on PC, but on console it was on the GameCube. Great game. You had what else was on the GameCube? You had Skies of Arcadia Legends. Great game. Great port of the. It was missing a little bit of content, but overall a pretty damn good game. The first Baten Kaitos, amazing on the GameCube, and still the superior version of Tales of Symphonia, GameCube. They have never ported that game. Every port of Tales of Symphonia has been that piece of shit PS2 version.
yeah,
That's at 30 frames per second.
yeah. That's sad.
Ugh.
That's
Yeah.
sad when you. It's like, well, I got to go to the GameCube version to get the superior experience.
I mean,
Still.
it's fair. The GameCube is a really good console. There's a lot of power in that little. The only thing is, nowadays, because the GameCube uses composite cables and most TVs, that like you got to get like a converter to convert the signal. But really, I sometimes go up and hook up my GameCube. Soul Calibur 2. There's a lot of great games on Nintendo consoles that are like, this is fucking amazing. So, like, I say this, I'll be honest with you. Look, I love my Nintendo consoles. I love a lot of games and IPs on my Nintendo consoles. But the Switch, that is not my favorite.
Yeah.
Not my favorite.
But anything else you'd like to say? I know, some of the stuff I was watching was making a big deal about Microsoft laying off employees, especially employees from 343 because of the way Halo Infinite's been handled, which it's just been nothing but sorry news pertaining to that game and the multiplayer and just um, uh,
Yes.
yeah. So apparently they've been also people questioning like if they're laying off all these people, then how are they spending $7 billion to buy Activision Blizzard?
You mean 69?
$69 billion.
Well, I think it's down like 63 because it keeps on getting revised down because Activision Blizzard keeps on effing up because it's Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, yeah,
They can't help themselves. Bobby Kotick is a real piece of shit. I think the only way they'll be able to buy Activision Blizzard is if all that executive board gets
they gotta
punished.
go. Yeah,
They got to get they cannot be. I don't think there is justice in the world if they get a golden parachute and just ride off into the sunset.
yeah,
I just don't. They cannot be allowed to do that. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
it just no, no, not after what was going on at Activision Blizzard, and Bobby Kotick's like, oh, I didn't know about this. How the hell do you run a multi-billion-dollar company and you don't know this shit's going on? No, no, no. What this is that you're just being a dick.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're lying. You're lying. You're lying to save your ass. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Bobby Kotick's made a lot of money. I mean, look, at this point, like, if Bobby Kotick had any fucking class and that whole executive board, they would say, look, you caught us. We were wrong. We dropped the ball. I'm going to stay here until this merges through, and then you're never going to hear from us again. We're going to ride off into the sunset and go the fuck away.
Yeah.
But apparently we can't do that.
Well,
we're not going to get that. It's too much to ask for. It's like, you just go away, you piece of shit.
kept on the power forever.
I mean, they like, okay. Let me put this way. Clearly, they are not going to be there. They're not going to be there next. They're not going to be there next. Like, if this goes through, they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, why would they need another CEO? Microsoft has someone that they can tap to put over, like a team of people they can tap to put over Activision Blizzard. They don't need Bobby Kotick and that executive board. So those people are going to go away. And I think most of them are going to go away. Because, I mean, after what's come out at Activision Blizzard and how it was run, how Bobby Kotick, like Call of Duty went under, like, Activision Blizzard is not a well-run company. Bobby Kotick knows how to make money, but he doesn't know how to make good games.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. I just work here. I don't know.
Well, we'll go on to our second topic. Forespoken. It's not what you think. It's worse than you think. No, but yeah, the game's not exactly. Square Enix doing some weird shenanigans with this game. Like, it's not like it's completely unheard of. It's, sending out review codes the day before the game comes out, and sending review codes. When most of the time you see that, that's
not a good sign.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah,
and they're sending out the review codes to their favorite reviewers.
Yeah, I talked with someone. I talked with someone who is a tech reviewer for the Washington Post. Now they're independent because they got fired, but they still write for them. But they get paid independently instead of being full-time staff. And they played. They went to an event where they got to play closed doors Forespoken, and they said they actually thought it was pretty good. The problem with Forespoken is that Square Enix didn't know how to market the game.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of it was mismarketed and mishandled. But from what they told me, the person, and I trust this person because they've pretty much given me really good information about games that I wanted to play if it was worth my time or not. Forespoken, the formula you have in Far Cry.
Yeah.
And that game from the Ratchet and Clank people after they left Sony.
Yeah.
Forgot the name of that game. The game where you grind on rails and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that in terms of mobility, except you're not grinding on rails. You're using magic to get around. So it's got really good mobility and kind of an open world type thing, and you're getting around, and the movement feels really good. and the magic that you use, how you use it, and how you upgrade your abilities and become more powerful is really good. But this should have been an easy game to market, but Square Enix didn't know how to. They mismarketed it. They cut that
Yeah.
shitty trailer where they were using all that really bad humor to pull it off. It's
Yeah.
but the people like this guy said it's actually a pretty good game. So I think if you can divorce the bad marketing for the game with look at the game itself, I think there will be people who like it, but that's not a good sign. But then again, this game is made by I think one of the few. No, it's made by their Japanese studio, but it's done in a Western style. It's done in their Luminous engine, so it's a gorgeous looking game. You probably will have to upgrade your PC if you want to play it. Uh, you know, I, you know,
Yeah, I mean they also have some technical issues as well
yeah. I
pertaining to
want
that
this game to
game.
do well. I want this game to do well because it has a female protagonist and it's a person of color. And if it doesn't do well, Square Enix is just going to be like, well, shit, we can't have a female protagonist and a person of color as a protagonist because it doesn't make money. Not recognizing that the real problem is that they mismanaged. They mismanaged the marketing for the game and didn't really market that game properly.
Yeah.
But Square Enix, that's what they do. Fucking up is what Square Enix does.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we? This should have been an easy slam dunk. Let me mess this up right here.
Yeah.
How can it?
Yeah, it does look like a really nice game too, and but it's got a pretty beefy PC requirement. That's for sure. Um, so
Yeah, I've said this
that's
before. If you don't have a good PC, you probably will not be able to run. Um, you're probably gonna have to upgrade your PC before you even get the game.
here's the system requirements. This is the minimum system required: a 64-bit processor, operating system, Windows 10 64-bit after November 2019, update of a Windows 11 64-bit. Yeah, I mean, typical 64-bit processor. Everything runs on a 64-bit operating system these days, so that's nothing new. Ryzen 5 6800, 3.7 gigahertz or better. Intel Core i7, 377, 3.7 gigahertz or better. 16 gigs of RAM memory. Wow. We're getting to the point where 16 gigs is probably not going to be enough. I remember when 8
Just barely
gigs.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
remember
needed
when 8
eight.
gigs was more than enough, but not anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, we live in a different world now.
AMD RX 5500 XT, 8 gigs of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, 6 gigs of VRAM, um, DirectX version 12, 150 gigs available space. Um,
Now that's what should make people mad.
yeah, and this is
Because
and these specs I just read off. It's not there on the Steam page. Where the game. When you look for the game, this is for 720p 30 FPS. This is the recommended requirements, which is interesting. Um, so here are the recommended requirements: typical 64-bit processor and operating system, AMD Ryzen 3600, 3.7 gigahertz or better, Intel Core i7 8700K, 3.7 gigahertz or better, memory 24 gigs of RAM? Uh, that's a little crazy. Wow. Okay.
Here's what I'm
24
gonna
gigs of
say.
RAM. So we're
Wait a second. Here's what I'm gonna say. Okay, look, if you're playing this game on a PC, you're a PC gamer anyway,
yeah,
and most serious PC gamers have 32 gigs at least.
yeah. I do.
So it's like, I mean, look, man. Okay, like at a certain if you're that serious about playing this on PC, you have a gaming PC, and you're not rocking with 16 gigs. You probably have 32. As a matter of fact, I'm probably the new PC that I have. I'm seriously thinking of upgrading the I'm thinking of upgrading the PC my RAM to 64.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that myself.
So, I
Actually.
mean, if you're getting this on console, it's not going to matter. But if you get it on console, it's going to run like ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that it's not exactly the most well-running game out there.
I mean, let's keep it real. A lot of games that are graphically demanding don't run well on consoles.
No.
And this isn't like they're doing poorly. I mean, just generally, these consoles are not as like games are not optimized for consoles like they used to be.
Yeah. And,
So,
and then going down the list, AMD Radeon RX 6700 XT, 12 gigs. NVIDIA RTX 37, 8 gigs VRAM. DirectX version 12, 150 gigs of RAM. Um, these recommendations I just read off.
it's high end.
No, hey, get what they get what this recommendations are for. This is for 1440p, 30 FPS,
All right.
and 67 XT and a 37, or an RTX 37. Those are I wouldn't say those are super high end cards, but
They're mid upper tier.
they're mid upper tier cards. So
Yeah.
it's just like, man. So you know, I'm guessing this is everything turned up. So you're playing on ultra settings, everything maxed out, anti-aliasing
And that's
maxed
why it's
out.
30 frames per second.
So
Because really, I personally like most of the games I play. I aim for 60 or higher frame. I care more about frames than I do about
visuals, yeah.
visuals. I'm like,
Yeah, so anybody that's looking to play this game, I guess I would just recommend like turning down shadows, turning down like if you really want to play at 1440p, because most people are gonna want to play at a higher resolution than 720p. But yeah, shadows, anti-aliasing, probably any reflection or lighting details, because that uses
yeah,
up a lot of resources.
and motion blur and all that shit, which is trash. Like if you're playing a game that has motion blur, turn that shit off.
Yeah.
Okay, motion blur is one of the most useless things. It uses up resources that your computer could be using to get your frames up. It's a waste of space. Don't use it. If you have a decent graphics card, it automatically does anti-aliasing. You don't need that turned on. Turn it off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm done. I got nothing left.
Okay. Yeah. So let's look at so on Steam the game right now is mixed. So I guess the game came out today.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we thought. It's not like here's the thing. This game is not gonna be for everybody. It's not gonna, it's niche, and people don't. what people don't understand is that Square Enix isn't like it was back in the day where they made like Square Enix. Final Fantasy used to be this is for everybody. They don't make games like that anymore. Square Enix is making games that hit a particular niche.
Yeah.
Like Octopath Traveler hit a particular niche. Um, what's it called? Triangle Strategy hit a particular niche. They don't have the juice to make those big bellwethers that hit everything like they did back in the day because they don't have the talent to make those games. You know, they aren't making stuff like Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy hasn't been great for years.
Yeah.
You know, I think 16 might break that trend because 16 is being made by the people who turned around Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no guarantee of that.
So here's one review. Haster. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Not recommended. He gave it a thumbs down. Nothing like the trailers. Sadly, the game's poorly optimized. It's basically a bad port. Graphics are not as great as they show them, and then the video trailer, the way they handle cutscenes, disabling your mouse is annoying, and cutscenes also stutter a lot.
See, here's the thing, right? He's
Yeah.
playing a game that's meant to be played with a controller with a mouse and keyboard. Yeah, no. It's like, no.
Here's another thumbs down, which I thought was funny. I got this game for free, and I still feel like I've been robbed. I still feel like I've been robbed. Has potential. Needs more time to cook. Check back after a few patches. And here's some more positive.
So they rushed the game out in order to meet a deadline. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because that makes sense that they rushed the game out to meet a deadline because Square Enix is notorious for that. Japanese companies in general are notorious for that. They will not delay something because look what happened to Pokemon.
Yeah.
And that game should have been delayed.
Yeah. So here's one positive review, if you can call it that. It says
Right.
Get out of the positive reviews and save your money. And here's another one. The game's fun, but has glaring flaws. You get stopped very often with tutorials. The start of the game, which can be quite annoying. The stories I've experienced so far is all right. I turned down the cuff dialogue to minimal for obvious reasons. Past that, the gameplay and the open world are awesome. I love the variety of spells you're given to fight the monsters in the open world. So it's
Look, it's a niche game. It's not for everyone.
yeah.
I mean, you know, it's some people are really gonna like it. Some people are not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: how much can you review a game if you've played it for a day?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially a game of this scope. And like I said, that first guy, it disables your mouse. You're playing a game that's optimized for a controller with a mouse. Oh, the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. It's a little weird. I mean, I've seen people play fighting games with a mouse and keyboard. I don't know how you do it, but
yeah, when someone does some shit like that, that's when I'm like, yeah, I can't. Because I remember one time this guy was talking about I was playing a racing game. He's playing a racing game with a mouse and keyboard, and I don't mean like an old PC style racing game like Need for Speed back in the day where it was optimized for mouse and keyboard. I mean like something where you need like a either a sim setup or a controller. No, he's complaining about the controls. I'm like, well, you're using controls that it's not built for. So why should I give a shit about what you have to say about it? It's like,
I think at this point where you can hook up any old controller up to a computer at this point, games that aren't typically mouse and keyboard reliant, they're just not going to optimize for mouse and keyboard because, well,
well, I
any
mean,
controller will
what?
do.
Yeah, here's what gets me with a lot of PC gamers, right? They're like, they think that everything on PC needs to be PC optimized. I mean, control wise, and I'm like, yeah, some games are built like this, some games are not.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other Square Enix news, Marvel's Avengers is shutting down in September completely, and it's just going to become a regular game. Like, apparently, like they're pretty much shutting down like their whole economy for that game for like skins and various different stuff, and you'll just be able to have access to them for free once they, and you'll still be able to play online. So it's gonna just become a regular game. It's like, you know, kind of, sort of, what people, it's gonna be something people would probably more prefer. So, I mean, if you have any slight interest in this game, and I'm sure, during the year, because Steam and so other various places will have their spring and summer sales. Uh, Probably get this game for super cheap, and within a couple, within a few months, you won't have to worry about all the microtransaction BS, all the gotcha mechanics that they implemented into that game.
Um, I mean, we obviously know why this happened because they got greedy, and
Yeah,
so and they didn't know what they were doing because it's Square Enix, and you know, Square Enix isn't a great company these days. Matter of fact, they kind of suck.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Merging those two, it's the reason that Square Enix merged. Both those companies having some financial issues?
No, Squaresoft was making a mistake. Enix always kept their money tight, but Squaresoft was messing up. So
Oh, so Square saw, or so
sorry,
Enix need.
Squaresoft was fucking up. Enix bought them, and because here's the thing: Enix could never get their games to do well outside of Japan, but in Japan they were doing really well. Squaresoft had the mass market potential in other countries because of Final Fantasy, six, Final Fantasy, 7, 8, 9, but like they were just known for RPGs, like the JRPGs in other countries. They couldn't really do other stuff because Squaresoft back in the day tried to do other shit like Energize, God Bless the Ring, and Einlanzer, that 2.5D side-scrolling shooter, but none of those really did stuff like Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah,
So essentially, and when Sony when Sony stopped, protecting them and giving them all those bennies, um, like they weren't making money like they used to. Plus, they put money into movies and shit. Remember?
yeah.
Remember Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which I went to go see
Yeah,
that movie, and that like they fired the man, their golden goose, Hironobu Sakaguchi, because it didn't make a lot of money.
yeah. I'm sure they have their tentacles all in the script too, and that's probably why that movie exactly wasn't because as far as I've heard about that movie has nothing really to do with Final Fantasy except in the name.
What? Which one?
Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Yeah, it was that almost just that's the reason why they got Enix to buy them because they lost so much money on that.
Yeah,
That they were like,
because people love those FMVs on the PlayStation. Anyway, and it seems like just after Final Fantasy X, no, Final Fantasy 12. After Final Fantasy 12, it just went downhill. Final Fantasy just started going downhill after that.
I mean, I think that to me, Final Fantasy was never at its best until it hit Final Fantasy, uh, like to me, Final Fantasy was at its best at 6. I think 7 is just a shittier version of Final Fantasy 6 to me.
Yeah.
Except they swapped the character archetypes. Like, instead of having Cloud as Terra, what's his name? Because memory loss, etc., etc. Not their own character until they discover who they truly are, etc., etc. Sid is basically sorry, Edgar. Barrett is Edgar, or not Edgar. He's what's his name? Shit, the King of Doma. Like it's just it's not the King of Doma, the King of shit, Sabin's brother.
Edgar?
It's no, yeah, you're right. Edgar, he's Edgar, and I'm like why? This is just lazy. It's Final Fantasy VII feels like they were in a hurry and they were like, we got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I guess I was going to be on the N64, and then they scrapped that because Sony gave them a bunch of money. And this lie still goes around about
It was money. It was money.
Yeah.
Because Sony knew that the reason the Super Nintendo and the NES were successful is because Nintendo basically put money into
into a lot of the Japanese stuff, the JRPGs.
yeah exclusivity deals and JRPGs.
Yeah.
Because if you wanted to win the Japanese market, you had to have JRPGs, and the NES was the JRPG system.
Yeah, and I remember the article you posted. It was a few years ago, about an interview with somebody from Square Enix, and when they were talking, they brought up the whole Final Fantasy VII thing. It's like, nah, it wasn't a hardware issue. It was just money. Sony came in with big bags of money and said, put your game on our console, and the money was nice. And after a while, the money ran out, and that's why you saw a lot of them, a lot of ports of their older stuff, the Game Boy Advance, and yeah, so.
Yeah, so when I hear people like, "Oh, this couldn't do it," it's like you can do anything. Look, if they could put Final Fantasy 2 on the N64 and Gauntlet Legends on the N64,
Resident Evil 2.
yeah, RE2, Gauntlet Legends on the N64, it's just look, listen. If you want to do something, you can do it. It has nothing to do with it's not capable. Now, back then, now like there are games that they put on the Switch, and I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But games are not what they used to be. Systems are not what they used to be because all these systems now, even the Switch, is basically just a glorified tablet.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tablet. It's a gaming tablet. A dedicated gaming tablet that you can plug into your TV.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, so is the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
The,
Steam Deck's
the
the same.
Steam Deck is also a glorified tablet, but it's a really powerful little tablet, whereas the Switch is using some cheap shit that wasn't even that good 8 years ago.
Yeah,
So there's a difference. You know, people get mad when you say that. They're like, oh, don't say that. Like, it's the truth, though. No, I know. People get mad. They're like, don't say that. That's my favorite piece of plastic. I'm like, okay, but it's true. um, but yeah, the Switch is kind of like not the best. Eh, like there are games on the Switch that the Switch struggles to run, and I'm like, this isn't a lack of optimization issue. Like optimization comes in when you basically, you optimize the code to get it to run better. But like if the hardware just doesn't have it, it just doesn't have it. And that's the thing about the Switch is that the hardware just doesn't have it for some games. So that's it. Um, hello, Kenoshi?
yeah, yeah. I'm
Are you
here.
there? Okay, I was wondering. You just got all quiet. I was like, did my voice get muted? What happened? No, no, no.
Yeah, but yeah, Marvel's Avengers. This game goes on sale for $20. I might check it out because I saw the single player and that actually looked kind of pretty interesting to me. I just never picked it up because I was tired. I wasn't interested.
All the microtransactions.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So we're on the free topics. Like I said, lighter list of topics than usual. But any free topics you'd like to bring out?
Um, I think I have one. Let's see here. It is. Oh, emulation. Step aside emulation. I restored my old Game Boy SP. So, a guy restored his old Game Boy SP, and I thought that was really cool because I like the Game Boy SP.
Yeah,
It's a good console.
yeah,
Or I like the Game Boy Advance. I don't like the Game Boy SP.
yeah, yeah. Kind of want to find a. And I have the analog pocket. It's really it's really good Game Boy clone console, but yeah, it looks cool as a Game Boy. But I really like that Game Boy Advance form factor.
Yeah, I like the original GBA.
Yeah, so I really wish they would have went with that design over the Game Boy design, but it's all right. But I think probably one of these days I'm just gonna see if I can get an old GBA that has an LCD screen with the that Game Boy Advance form factor.
My
My biggest
advice. No, sorry. Go ahead.
um oh, I mean they did make a iteration of the GBA that was probably worse than the SP, and that was the Game Boy
Game Boy
Micro.
Advance Micro.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't worse. It was just really small. So if you had big hands, you just were not going to have a good time.
yeah,
You know. So if you're cool with that,
what was the advice they were gonna give?
No, my advice was this. If you really want to get into Game Boy Advance gaming, I would advise if you ever have any spare income or you have some money, get yourself an old GBA. You can find online modders that you send your GBA to, and they'll put in a new screen, like an LCD screen, LED screen in there,
Yeah.
and get yourself like one of those EverDrives, and then you can put whatever games you want on there, including like new games that run on the GBA, because the GBA is an underrated. Plus, you have access to an entire library of old Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. So one device plays natively a whole bunch of old ass games, and that's just a lot of I mean, when you can sit there and do all that stuff, with one device, it's totally worth it. Because even though retro gaming has gotten expensive, Game Boy is still affordable.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to get Pokemon. If you're trying to get Pokemon, I don't know what to tell you. But you can always play the emulated version of Pokemon, so it's okay.
It's kind of bizarre because of how many, because Pokemon was always a high seller, so you'd figure. I mean, there's millions of copies of Pokemon.
Never mind. It was a spam caller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. No, go ahead.
There's millions of copies of Pokemon out there, so you figure it wouldn't be as expensive as it is, but
because certain versions of Pokemon they didn't have a large run on, like Pokemon Crystal and Pearl. They didn't do a lot. They didn't have a huge run on that.
Oh,
and it's expensive to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Like there's certain runs they didn't do a huge amount of. And there's certain Game Boy Advance games that are kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that. It's one of those things where like, I don't know why it's so expensive. Because there's some stuff they didn't have a lot of. Like one of the rare Super Nintendo games of all time is Avenging Spirit. Or something like that, where you basically play a ghost that came back to life. And you're trying to get revenge against the people who killed you, and it's like, wow, this is kind of dark,
Yeah. But my free topic is it's more of an annoyance. Thinking about this today, you know those mods. People like to take Nintendo characters and throw them, and sometimes their worlds, and throw them into Unreal Engine 4, and gussy them up. Supposedly, and the problem with all of that is it's just it always
looks weird.
It looks weird. It looks off.
Yeah,
These people obviously aren't game developers, and
are you talking about that Unreal Engine demo they did for Ocarina of Time, and they went to Lon Lon Ranch?
Yeah, Mario.
And it's like, Melon, you look weird. Melon, Melon. Here's the thing: those games are a product of their time, and they really should exist for what they were made for. Like by today's standards, Ocarina of Time is an ugly game.
Yeah.
No. And even back then, you could tell they took certain shortcuts. Ocarina of Time is buggy and glitchy and kind of like there's times where the game is barely holding it together. Okay, and I know some people be like, "Oh no, come on, man." We know
that game has some. That game does definitely have some slowdown. Like if you want,
not even the slowdown. There's just. System resources being what they were, there's just certain times where stuff couldn't do. Like, why do you think that when you quote unquote save the Zora domain, like all you get is have fat ass King Zora sitting on that little ledge because they didn't have the engine couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
the engine did the best it could with what it had, and that was it. Like look, man, they did the best they could with what they had, okay? And yet, Ocarina of Time is a great game for its time. But the caveat there, for its time, we've gotten better. Like, I
Yeah.
keep on telling people this. They're like, I want to play a Legend of Zelda that'll really get me into Legend of Zelda, and I don't want to, but I don't want to, I want to get into it, but I don't want to deal with the baggage. I tell people to play Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess is like a better version of Ocarina of Time. Because the problems that you had in Ocarina of Time, non-existent in Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, you actually saved the Zora domain. It feels like you saved the Zora domain.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, oh, I actually did save this place. Like, these people are actually way better because I was able to help them. Like you saved Kakariko Village. It actually feels like you saved Kakariko Village.
Yeah.
Like it's just a better made game all around. It's like I mean, they got a second bite at the apple, and the second bite was actually better. You know?
Yeah.
And the final fight with Ganon feels more like epic in Twilight Princess than that bullshit they had in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Because basically in Twilight Princess, like, essentially speaking, the fight with Ganon is you constantly tearing down. Like, you're kicking his ass as he's using his more powerful powers first, and you're just tearing it down bit by bit by bit. This little punk ass kid, sorry, young man with a magic sword, he's out dueling him. He's like, well, I'm gonna go beast mode now. In Twilight Princess, your beast mode is insane. When Link uses his feral attack, he can one shot groups of enemies. And here's the thing: Link has the shittiest Triforce power.
Yeah.
Like his Twilight power sucks. He's like Princess Zelda can bring people back to life, transform into people. Ganon is basically functionally immortal unless you have the Master Sword. Link, I can turn into a wolf. Yay! But seriously, he's literally he's like, well, I'll take over the princess. Link's like, I don't think so, bitch. He's like, well, I'll turn into a giant beast mode. I don't think so, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, technically speaking, you can either wear the iron boots or you can turn into Link's beast mode and use Midna's shadow hand to turn over Ganon's thing, so it's beast against beast, and go to town on his weak spot where he was hit with that magic sword with the fucking sages. So you're just constantly, and then he's like, well, fine then, I'll use my abilities to use my shadow clones to my dark energy evil clones to take you out. You're on horseback, you're out competing them. Basically, and then he's finally like, well, shit, okay, a sword duel it is. And you're like, well, guess what? I'm good at that too, motherfucker. And you stab him. And it's like, wow, this is epic. Whereas that shit you do in Ocarina of Time, it's like, okay, you fight him in the castle, did the energy ball thing, that's okay. And then he turns into a giant pig monster in the rubble, and you got to hit him in his glowing weak spot tail. Okay.
Yep.
Not really. Which is still better than that bullshit they did in Breath of the Wild. I will tell you right now, that is one of the most disappointing final boss fight sequences I've ever seen in a Legend of Zelda game. It was so bad that I didn't even feel like I was playing a Legend of Zelda game. I'm like, this is clearly a spin-off that they slapped this Legend of Zelda on it. This is not Legend of Zelda. This is something else.
Yeah, but in any case, the thing about the whole Unreal thing, and I've seen stuff of Mario, Zelda, Metroid. It's like they overdo it. Obviously, it's
well,
people.
Metroid looked pretty good.
Yeah,
but you have to remember, Metroid Prime was made in Unreal Engine 1.5.
Yeah.
So it being an Unreal, not an impossible thing.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it just looks like they do too much. Like they don't. It's I guess the way to put it is no self control. Like it just looks off. Like they just like, oh, let's put a light here. Let's put even more lights here. Let's add even more shine to this object. Um,
Yeah, because they're using the problem is that they use all the shit in the engine without understanding that when those games were made, they did certain things for a valid reason.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not all just limitations. Like, I mean, part of it's limitations, but some of
Yeah.
it's just art direction. Like, it's not
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I agree.
yeah. So
Yeah. But they need to stop doing that. You're right. They like okay, unless it's a game where like okay, Metroid Prime has always been a graphical tour de force for Nintendo. It's like, oh, you think we can't do shiny, blinged out games? Metroid Prime, 1, 2, 3. Those games
yeah,
look fucking amazing. So
yeah,
doing something that has all the lighting and the shadows and all that shit, perfect sense. Ocarina of Time, no. That game was, for its time, Ocarina of Time was ugly as shit. Majora's Mask looks so much better than Ocarina of Time.
oh yeah, and it just might be my nostalgia goggles, but I honestly think it ran a little bit better too.
No, it did run better because they had a handle on the engine, and there's like Ocarina of Time is smaller, and there's less shit going on in that game.
Yeah,
So it's like while it's a smaller world and there's less shit going on, the system resources didn't have to spend, and plus they had more of a handle. Remember, Ocarina of Time was basically a launch game, so if you think they had a handle on that hardware, you would be sorely mistaken. They did not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But is there any other free topics you'd like to bring up before we close out the show?
No, no, I got nothing else left. I think I expounded, waxed poetic on it enough. Methinks.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Project Console episode 61. Pink Slip. Like to pimp out anything before we
Yeah, yeah, I would. I was gonna work on a video last week, but I had car troubles and I had to work extra hard in order to make certain amounts of money to not be in the hole this month. So wasn't able to do that. So I'll be able to do that tomorrow. So I'll probably have like 2, 3 videos going up, plus the podcast tomorrow, which is BS Busters, where we'll be talking about all types of amazing things. Mostly, we're going to talk about 10. We're talking about movies, emulation. Oh, we're going to talk about how people, like a group of gamers that banded together to not let a company fuck them over, and I enjoy it. I wish video gamers were like this. Plus, we'll cover the stuff we were going to cover last week, but we didn't. Mostly how Ubisoft is fucking up. Is Breath of the Wild really that close to the OG Legend of Zelda? I can lay the argument out that it's not. What Superman stories we want to see from James Gunn on the new DC Cinematic Universe. Starfield being delayed yet again because, Microsoft. And what video games coming out this winter that we're looking forward to. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, with all of that, have a good week, have a good weekend, and have a good life. See you guys next week.